What is your name?
My name's Nick Burke.
How did you get started in music?
I've been doing music since, well, it's always been in my household. Um, my dad, he played guitar, and my parents, I was fortunate enough to where in our household they were always playing music growing up on the stereo system, and I had a wide variety. So from a very early age, I was drawn to it. But as far as me myself being a musician and pursuing this, I first started taking drum lessons in the fifth grade, and I took it for like half a year. And then when I went to middle school, I was like dead set on I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to be a drummer in a band. And when it came time in middle school to join the band, I was like, I'll be a percussionist. Of course, I'm a drummer. I took half a semester of drum lessons. I know how to play the drums when I really didn't. And I was devastated when they had the little music tryout for instruments in middle school, and I didn't get picked for percussion. So that's when I got picked to do saxophone, and that's when I started doing that, which led to me studying music in college, and now here I am.
What do you feel that it was that kept you making music?
I think just the love for it. At the end of the day, that's what comes down to it, because I talk to a lot of people about this a lot, where if your only reason to make music is to be famous or to make money, sure, that's possible, but the chances are slim compared to making money elsewhere. So for me, it's like, in order to keep coming back to it, I have to have some type of love and passion for it, which is why it's the way that music makes me feel when I'm doing it, when I'm writing it, when the creative mindset it's in when I'm writing music.
When did you start taking music seriously?
Taking music seriously. So in high school, I pretty much took as many music classes as I possibly could. I knew that when college was coming around, that was kind of the route that I really wanted to pursue. So I think at that point, that's when I was like, all right, I'm kind of going to make this a big part of my life now, when I decided to study music in college. But then as far as kind of being an artist and writing music, when I started taking that seriously, I had dabbled with it when I was in high school, but it wasn't until I started connecting with some peers in college, and we started pursuing writing our own music in the dorms and stuff like that. And then eventually that led to playing shows and stuff like that. So that was really when it was like, oh, we can actually do something with this. And again, not necessarily to be famous or anything, but it was like people were affected by it, and people seemed to enjoy it. And so that's when it was like, all right, we can actually kind of do this. And now it's still a huge part of my life.
Which one's been your favorite?
That's a good question, because we've done a lot. I would say for me, my personal favorite was when I was performing with Shikori 1200, and we had the opportunity to travel to New York City, and we played at a 92nd Street Y. It's basically an organization that has to do with education, and I know they do some stuff with kids. And we got to play this theater full of kids in Manhattan for 3 days straight, and they knew all the words to every song. We got flown in, the whole trip was paid for, so that was kind of one of those moments where it was like seeing the impact that music could have, even though it was kids, seeing the impact that it could have.
The last album that you came out with was called ISO. What was the ideas or the concepts that you had coming into it?
So ISO, I kind of titled it with an acronym in mind. So either way, but the idea behind that was fully when everybody was locked in their house during COVID, basically out of a job, at home all day, and it was like I gotta be productive still. I gotta do something, and that's when it led to me starting to write music. And I was like, because I kind of want to capture this time period in the way that I know best, which is through music. And so it led to me just starting to write instrumentals, and then I was like, well, wait a second, wouldn't it be cool if I reached out to kind of my network of artists that I know, and because at that moment, if people remember that time, people were really connecting through the internet, through social media, and just Zoom, all that. So I reached out to people and I was like, would people be interested in doing like a fully virtual collaborative project? And that's what it led to. So, and with the prompt of each song, I kind of led each artist of, I don't really care what you talk about, but in some way make it relative to what we were going through in that moment. Because I wanted it to be kind of like a time capsule of that time.
Did you have a favorite song off of that project?
Oh, that's such a hard question. Because music's like, they're like little babies. Each song's like a baby. It's hard to pick a favorite, but obviously the one that was like, we did the most with and kind of got the most recognition was the song Breathe with Jans and Kyrie, because we did a music video, and doing that video and the style that the song was in, to me it really felt like the style that in feeling and overall image that I had been wanting to go for a while. So that one stands out. But again, I like them all.
You were talking about earlier, you have a large network of musicians and other artists. Have you had like an artist that you feel like you've clicked with the most over the last few years, or an artist that you feel like you just really enjoy working with them, even if you haven't gotten to work with them anytime soon?
Yeah, of course for me, the when it comes to artists, the two that's family and it's going to be the easiest no matter what is Jans and Jetson, because those are guys that kind of from the very beginning in college of kind of pursuing this. And for us, it like a year can go by and we can get in the studio and it all clicks. It's all just because of the history. So just them based on history, but also there's a lot of other artists that I work with that there's a really strong connection to. Kyrie being one, because I feel like he really lets me be me and try to do what I want to do and doesn't really diminish my ideas and musicianship. So working with an artist, I usually value when artists are open to that. Me trying crazy stuff and crazy ideas and being like, cool, let's try it. So it's been fun working with him too.
What's one of the biggest things that you've learned throughout your creation of music? Or more so your creation process, like one thing you've learned about yourself in your creation process?
I would say one thing is that when it's on, it's on. Like whenever you're in that like flow state, it doesn't feel like you can miss and just things are hitting and you're just really involved in the creative process. So for me, it's just trying to create time and space and environments that are conducive to that's going to happen more often than not. But it's not always going to happen. Just like anybody, I go through spells where I'm not necessarily feeling the creative energy, and I think for me the biggest thing is just to not force it, and it's fully okay. There's times when I come down here and I'm working on stuff and everything's a total miss, but at least I'm trying and I'm in that mindset and I'm trying, and that's really all you can do. And when you do get in that zone, it's a wrap. I just feel like in general, there's a hole in music technology education in general. Of course, there's programs that I've worked for in the past that are doing a good job. But as a whole, I think overall there just needs to be more resources in that world. The ones that do exist are attempting to get the job done, like AMPed and MRC. But no, we need more of it.
What about production resources, or like the last producer talked about Splice and there's all those other, like what resources do you use in the sense of the production process?
Yeah, so now we're in a world of, when it comes to especially hip-hop production, where we're kind of in this world where every famous producer sells their own sounds, where in the past when I first started, it was you really had to go and dig and find these like untapped libraries that people hadn't used before, which now it's kind of easier to access stuff. I mean, just follow your favorite producer and I'm sure they've got sounds that they're selling. I would say that's a good place to start. Obviously Splice is great because It has a big variety, but it has its limitations. Some of the, I mean, YouTube University, just there's many. I use Logic, and there's many things little features that I might not know that I'm trying to do. A quick YouTube search, there's somebody explaining it. Um, so I think it's just a matter of how you use your tools. I mean, there's a lot out there. It's just a matter of just using them the right way.
Another part of your production process has been also playing a lot of your own instruments. What are some of the instruments that you play?
So like I said earlier, my primary instrument is actually saxophone. That's what I studied in college, and which I added on stuff from time to time, but it's not, obviously it's not like as versatile as like keyboard or guitar that can be applied to a lot of different settings. So I also play keyboard, guitar. I have a bass. I wouldn't call myself a bassist, but like I can play a bass line. I have some other stuff that I mess around with, but those are the main ones.
What's been your biggest moment in your music career?
I would say biggest moment overall is getting to play Forecastle, because it seemed like everything we were doing in Louisville had been kind of working towards that moment of getting to play the big local city music festival. All the hard work we had been put to that, and to make that happen was pretty special. But for me individually, I would say just getting to connect with artists and just be honest and true to myself, and just put out a few projects that people seem to like. For me, that's all I can ask for.
Has there been any inspirations like outside of music that you feel like help drive you?
Yeah, for me, one of the biggest things that I need in my life, present, music being one. The other is just being in travel and just nature in general. So for me, every year I try to take a big trip somewhere and just be outside and away from everything, hiking, and just engulfed in the moment and not really worried about what's going on around me. Just being in the moment. And I think doing that allows me to really come back and really be in a creative space that's honest and true. So that would be the biggest inspiration outside of music. I also try to read a decent amount, so there are books about creativity and stuff like that. I know Questlove has one, but that's obviously related to music. But stuff like that, just trying to find ways to bring creativity into your life, even if it's not through the means of music.
Are there any collaborations you would like to have in the distant future?
That's tough, because I feel like a lot of the people that I've wanted to work with, I have. I would say for me, it's just more so, just more of the certain type of artists that I want to work with, because I've had a fair share of interactions where people come to me or they want to work, and it's strictly just wanting to recreate YouTube beats and not really necessarily caring about what I do or interested in what I can possibly bring. So for me, where I get the most fulfillment is when artists challenge me, but are also open to what I'm doing. So I wouldn't say there's necessarily like one individual that's like, I dream. It's just more so like people of that category. If they can bring that, that's dream collaboration to me.
What genres would you like to get into more in the future?
That's a good question too. Cause majority of my stuff has been hip hop and R&B. I did put out an instrumental album that dealt with scoring a skateboard video that I was involved in, and that was a lot of fun because I got to explore some other sounds and doing some like rock and some other stuff that I normally hadn't been involved in, at least not putting out there. For me, kind of there's a few that I would be interested in exploring more. One would be kind of like folk, like like rootsy type music, kind of like with some rock influence. And also, I've been kind of exploring with house music a little bit lately, like soulful house music. But at the end of the day, like smooth R&B and hip hop's always gonna be like where I'm most comfortable. But yeah, those are ones I'm open to. I'm open to anything really. I'd also like to do more in the line of like experimental type music, like specifically jazz, like just improv and stuff like that. Just because I have a background in it and I haven't really put a whole lot of music out in that style, so.
Out of all the projects that you've released on Spotify, what are some of your favorites?
Hmm. I would say ISO because I think we achieved. It's not perfect, but it achieved the goal of what I was going after. Um, yeah, but I'm proud of every single one. Obviously, when artists are artists and producers, you're your own harshest critic, and every time you go back and listen to older work, you might cringe a little. But even from my very first project that I ever put out to all the ones in between, I'm proud of each and every one in some way. But if I had to pick one, I guess ISO.
Um, do you got any other projects or things that you've been working on with things that you might to just look out for?
Yeah, not necessarily anything like on a solo level. Currently working on scoring another skate thing. So doing that, and then just been working a lot with various artists on just one-offs and like little EPs. But it's all still kind of in the creative process and nothing that's like necessarily down the pipeline right now.